Okay, we're still discussing 2 years of the Buhari-led administration with a focus on labor. How well has the present administration fared in dealing with the welfare of workers?
Yeah. Now, since he took over office, President Buhari has ensured that different sets of bailout funds were disbursed to bankrupt states for the payment of workers' salaries and entitlements of pensioners. Now, the major issue on the front burner is that labor unions have urged the government to announce the tripartite negotiations committee on the minimum wage.
Joining us from Abuja is the head, International Relations Nigeria Labour Congress, Uchenna Ekwe. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
All right, let's start this way. How has labor fared under the present administration in the last 2 years?
Well, that question is a little tough. First, you know that the economy is under recession, and there are huge challenges. The workers' salary under the hyperinflation makes no meaning anymore to him. The take-home pay cannot take the worker home. But in dealing with this question, we must appreciate that you can't say it is a creation of this regime. In fairness to the Buhari administration, he has responded very well to the issue of workers without really being prompted. One of the first things he did was to release bailout fund to states. At a point, many states were unable to pay salaries due to gross mismanagement of the state funds. In the years past, even when the economy was doing very well, many state government went borrowing money and using for frivolous things, and thereby leaving a huge debt burden, and were unable to pay salaries. The facts remain, which nobody can deny, that the Buhari administration was able to offer bailouts so that to ameliorate these sufferings. But when you take it the overview of the ordinary worker, from the point of view of the economic pressure, his crisis have not been resolved, and vis-a-vis the need and the call for already a ripe review of the minimum wage.
All right, talking about minimum wage, Nigerians have been expecting because from the last agreement between government and labor, it was supposed to be reviewed in 5 years. And now, for the 5th year, and the time going now, it's more than 5 years from the last time. But the recession on ground right now, and labor is still asking for minimum wage. The committee has been set up. But how realistic is going to be the minimum wage pegged at what the labor union is saying at 56,000? In fact, we even heard some part of the labor movement also saying it has to be even made about 98,000 naira. But how realistic is this minimum wage review at this time where we're still reeling in economic recession?
Yeah, of course, it is even more imperative and needed now than ever before, because usually in many parlance, when the economy goes into recession, one of the instruments of fighting the recession is a upward wage review, which is a way to reflate the economy. Because when you are in recession, you will encourage manufacturing, production. But if you go into manufacturing and production where citizenry of this country doesn't have the the capacity to purchase even what you are manufacturing, those industries itself will die. So for us, it is even much more economically expedient to do an upward review as a sure way of reflating the economy. An example you can borrow easily was what the Obama administration did when they came in and America was undergoing recession. They immediately did an upward review of worker salary, which is one sure legal way of putting money in the hand of the citizenry, which increased the capacity of spending, and which is a way to fight recession.
Yes, indeed. Now, so many Nigerians and people from everywhere are sympathetic with the call by the NLC for an upward review of the minimum wage. But how would you react to the perception out there that the civil service, for example, is highly corrupt and totally inefficient to a very large extent? What is NLC's stance on that in ensuring that when indeed the minimum wage is raised, you'll see a better civil service, for example?
Well, the accusations are neither here nor there. First, I cannot stand here to say, or sit down here to say, that there is no corruption in the public service. I agree and know that there is, but the issue here is this corruption, at what level does it take place? Who supervises it? The experience we've had over the years has been that there is some level of the civil service who neither belong to unions nor care about unions. Even all the arguments against workers' salary review is usually profiled by them because they have other means of acquiring funds. We know that. At the level of manipulating even what is now known as ghost workers, it is not done by the ordinary worker. It is done by a certain level management officers who are neither unionists or belong to workers' union. As a matter of fact, when workers do agitation and fight for salary increase, and maybe it gets to the point where a strike action might be needed, it is even this level of officer that compile the name of workers that will be sacked for being part of the strike action demanding for a wage review. And over the years, we also know that it is also this set of workers that also manipulate the outcome to skew it in their favor. So, yes, we are interested that every form of corruption, whether from the public service officers, or political class, or business class, should be dealt with. And we in the labor movement have neither pretended, we have been in the forefront saying that the country will be rid of corruption, whether the people are public servants, whether a worker chooses to do so. Because when you talk about it, we also know that any manipulation or corrupt activity is not going to help the worker. It means that what should have been provided for the dedicated worker will be diverted by few individuals.
All right, Uchenna, right now, several of the states are still not being able to pay salaries. So when we talk about the issue of minimum wage review, how viable, how feasible, let me say, would this be in the face of the challenges of states not being able to even meet what is on ground right now?
No, you know, this thing is about choice. When you talk about the states who are not meeting up, they choose not to meet up. They choose to put funds in other things. You are aware that even the bailout that was released, some state governments made attempts to divert it to pay contractors, through which they will receive some percentages and pretend they are doing capital projects. But the money was specifically meant, some percentage of it, to pay salaries and pensions. And they choose to divert or attempt to divert it for other purposes. So it's about choice. It's about when people feel that the worker is just an instrument that does not deserve any welfare sort of. So it is scale of preference. Where does that governor? Because there are some states who are paying update even before now.
Okay, Uchenna Ekwe, Head International Relations, NLC. Remain with us. We'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion.
Right, if you're just joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast, and we're discussing the labor movement in Nigeria. The past 2 years, we're putting focus or laying focus on the Nigeria Labour Congress and the welfare of workers in Nigeria. And we have with us the head of international relations of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Uchenna Ekwe, with us in our Abuja studio. We've been talking about this. But to add to it further, let's take this reaction from lawmakers on the need for the federal government to urgently review the minimum wage of workers.
As of today, there is no law that compels or mandates the government to review salaries. We're not saying that the minute 5 years comes up, you must automatically increase. No. But at least let the law compel the government and laborers and all stakeholders to sit down and review the salaries of workers. Now, you can, after reviewing, maintain status quo or increase, depending on the situation and the economic situation in the country.
Every law that is passed by the National Assembly is supposed to be executed by the President, either directly or through members of the public service. So it boils down to the civil service executing the laws passed by the National Assembly, meaning that if they are not motivated, if they are demoralized, we have a problem on our hands.
In a situation where we have workers, and the workers see that government is there for them, before even they are agitating for any review, government call them to review. They will be very happy in that respect.
What this bill seeks to achieve is to make sure that government does not neglect our workers. Because if there's no law, as the leader said, what it simply means is that for 18,000 minimum wage, it can last as long as Nigeria remains.
All right, Uchenna Ekwe, Head International Relations, NLC. You've listened. I hope you heard what the lawmakers said there. I'm sure many Nigerians will be wondering that there hasn't really been any law compelling government to actually review workers' salaries every 5 years. What's your take? How would you respond to the legislators' call?
Yeah, for me, I am happy that at last it is getting this attention.
All right, but Uchenna, there's a... Okay.
Maybe it might interest you to know. It might interest you to know that in 2002, I made an attempt to sponsor such a bill in the House of Reps, which was seeking for a 3-year review, which was not concluded before our tenure finished. So for me, it is a very important moment, and I'm excited that that is coming. 5 years might be too long, but let us have something.
But Uchenna, from what we heard the lawmakers say, there's going to be a clause that salaries can be reviewed, looked into, but based on the realities on ground, they may not necessarily be added to workers, or salaries may not be upped by any means, depending on the realities on ground. So if we look at that clause there, it seems like it gives a leeway for nothing to be done if nothing wants to be done, or maybe the employer wants to get mischievous, if I have to put it that way.
Well, of course, naturally, I would prefer that the clause is not there, but I still think it's better than what is existing now, because by the time we go to the negotiating table, also the realities will be known. Economic realities is not something that need rocket science to prove. Right now, we know that the wage, when you look at the inflationary rate, it is clear that the take-home pay is not taken home. So, instead of our fighting, we will attempt to convince the members that we should put upward review. But we will be more concerned that this law is passed, that there will be a review.
Okay. All right. At this point, let's bring in Foladele. Just hold on, Uchenna Ekwe. Foladele, I'm sure you have views of Nigerians?
Yes, I do indeed. Of course, we can't talk about labor or minimum wage without talking about jobs. And that's what Nigerians seem to be focusing on online. So let's find out what they're saying at this time. Chinadu O. James says the unemployment rate in Nigeria rose to a staggering 13.9% by the end of 2016. Thus, there's huge competition for jobs in the labor market. Efri David says, is there any country where opportunities look for people? In Nigeria, we look for opportunities. What a competitive labor market. Dolly P says, when I keep seeing the amount of students graduating every year in different unis, I get worried of Nigeria's labor market. Joshua Oguntade says, my principal back in secondary school puts it in a more polite way. There is no such thing as unemployment, just unemployable graduates. Victor Semota says, I think the job problem in Nigeria is nuanced. It is not that there aren't any jobs, there are just no jobs for idiots.
Oh, yeah.
And someone said, and he continued and he said, he explains why he said that. And he says, he got an unsolicited email from someone searching for a job. She also copied 10 other companies. I replied to her alone. She responded to all. Chinedu Uchioma says, the job problem in Nigeria is not absence of jobs, but people understanding how to be ready for such jobs. And the last one here from ABC Nigeria, in quotes, admittedly, the economy has proven to be the biggest challenge of all. Thank you so much. That will be all from me.
Thank you very much,
Thank you, Foladele, for the
one would be tempted to agree with some of those tweets there.
You don't even have to be tempted. You need to agree with, because the point is, we've had cause sometimes to interact with young graduates.
Yeah, job seekers.
And then the way they can't even articulate, a lot of them anyway, not everyone, the way they can't even articulate some of their points. What do you really want?
And they tell you, in fact, if you give me anything.
Anything.
Okay, then you're not ready for it. You're really not ready.
ready.
Now, Uchenna Ekwe, let's quickly throw this in. Now, the NLC insists that the minimum wage should be on the, what's it now? What's that list? Exclusive list. It's been on the concurrent list for a while now. Now, what's wrong with states actually determining the wages or minimum wage for workers?
You know, people miss the point very heavily there. When you talk about workers, you don't just have workers of state and workers of federal government. You have workers of private industries, private companies, foreign companies, oil companies, name it. What the law did, which stem from the ILO convention, which we adopted, is that the nation sets a minimum floor. The minimum wage is the minimum floor on which every employer of labor, whether it's a Chinese company, whether it's a South African company, whether it's a Nigerian company, state government, federal government, should not go below. If people take the narrow perspective, they intend to look at it. What will happen when states fix their own wages? Who fix for the person working in Julius Berger? Who fix for the person working in MTN? And all those. Two, there is other implications beyond just the wage review. At the ILO, nations are represented by the Ministry of Labor. The tripartite body, which is government, employer, and there is no state government that ever goes there or that adopts that convention. It is this wisdom that even big countries, federations like the United States, still have a minimum wage. That's the barest minimum.
Okay.
All right. Uchenna Ikwe, thank you very much for talking to us this morning. Uchenna Ikwe is the head international relations of the Nigeria Labour Congress. Thank you for lending your voice on the program this morning. All right. You know, when it comes to the issue of minimum wage, we can't talk enough about this.
Absolutely.
The call to review minimum wage has been on for about more than a year, or maybe about 2 years now. Yeah, longer than that. But it is gladdening that at least the National Assembly, government officials are now looking into the reality. They're debating and talking about it themselves.
Yes, indeed. And I'm even reminded of the report of the Technical Committee on Minimum Wage and Palliatives, which was submitted to the now suspended SGF, Babachir Lawal. I wonder what's going to be happening to that report now.
Well, I think it's good that the National Assembly is debating it first, because from there it becomes law, and it goes a long way. All right.
We'll have to leave it there.
It's been a rainy day in Lagos. In fact, almost parts of the entire Lagos has been wet since last night until this morning.
It's a pleasant weather,
really nice.
Really, for me. You know, it just cools down that heat.
Yeah, but sometimes you can be held up with traffic if you're going to some places, especially under the rain.
It means just be more careful on the roads as you drive.
Don't go without your umbrellas. Yeah. All right, we'll certainly leave you with the weather forecast for cities across the world. Certainly from me here, I am Mike Okwacha. Bye for now.